So we'll get started here. Welcome to this year's Martha's Vineyard Roundtable. We've renamed it instead of our forum that we have done over the years in person. Unfortunately, we can't do this in person, but we have found that these Zoom meetings have been working really well. Many of you may have joined some of the Zoom meetings over the summer or some of the owner series meetings that we had over the past few weeks on various topics. If you missed those, certainly we have those on video and you can catch up with them later. What we have for today is specific to the Vineyard. We're going to go through a quick presentation here, including some numbers, statistics, and a forecast for 2021. And then what we really want to focus on is just getting feedback from you, from Vineyard homeowners. So often do we hear that folks like to hear what other people's experiences have been, what has worked for them. And so here's an opportunity for us to gather. We have a 20 plus folks here, all Vineyard homeowners, so we can share what our experiences are. With me today, Joan, say hello. You're probably going to be off on the side. Joan Talmadge, co-owner.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
And Elizabeth Whedon.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
And homeowner team member. And myself, Jim Reese. And so let's jump into what we're going to do. As I said, we are going to just recap a few statistics from the 2020 season and look ahead into 2021, and then enter into our roundtable discussion. And I'll define some guidelines for the roundtable. Try to do this over a virtual meeting will be interesting, but I'm sure we can manage. So with that, what I want to do is take a look back or before we look forward to 2021 and try to answer what will 2021 be like, we do want to look back at how did we do during 2020. Certainly this is a unprecedented time. There's a lot of uncertainties. Everyone experienced 2020 with so many uncertainties at such a late stage in the season that it was a big question on whether 2020 would really occur at all. Some of you probably questioned, can I even rent this summer? And sure enough, what we saw was not only did 2020 rebound where you were able to have a summer, but many folks said that they had one of their best, if not the best summer ever in terms of the number of renters and number of weeks that had been booked. So looking back, I've shown this chart many times, so some of you may have seen this before. This is for all the Cape and Islands, and that's why we questioned whether we would have a summer at all back in March and April, is because it dipped so low. People were not booking. People were really on lockdown and just questioning what was going to happen. But the rebound that occurred was extraordinary, to say the least. We saw numbers 3 times, 4 times even in June, where the demand for rentals was 3 or 4 times over what we've normally see. In addition, what I did is I broke it down to the Vineyard, and you'll see the same thing occurred specifically for the Vineyard. And the only difference here for the Cape and Islands versus the Vineyard actually, we saw a peak where July was the largest month. They both set June, July, August. They were setting records throughout the summer, but July happened to be the peak throughout the summer for Martha's Vineyard. The other thing that we've been looking at is the vacation rental industry as a whole. We're just looking at, where is this demand coming from? And what we're seeing and people have been talking about is that the vacation rental industry itself is continuing to grow. You have many people, and this stat here, 94% increase in new vacationers to the Vineyard that had never used our site before. And so the prospects for the vacation rental industry have been always growing, and this shows that indeed it is. You have many people that have never stayed on the Vineyard before, never stayed in a rental before, and now are experiencing that. And this pandemic has forced some folks to do just that. They saw the value, they saw the safety, they wanted space where their family could get to a place to vacation the summer safely, responsibly, and rentals provide just that. They provide your own space and security. And so people were flocking to rentals in high demand. That summer, after the summer, we take a look at the fall activity, what we're looking at now. So looking at the September, October months, the demand continued to be strong for reasons that we've discussed before in terms of folks who are looking to, a lot of people are working from home. They may be homeschooling, and so opportunities to get away continued into the fall. Folks were not traveling, as with the summer and into the fall. People are not traveling long distances. They're not traveling by plane. You know, they're looking for, if they're looking for an escape, you know, going local is certainly why the demand is so high. And you have folks that are looking to get away to the Vineyard. And what we've looked at here is just our website traffic remains strong, and searches, specifically searches for the Vineyard, and the number of inquiring vacationers over the last couple of months. You know, we're talking 30+% above what we've seen in previous years. Actually, looking at the numbers yesterday had the biggest one-day total in the month of November. So generally, we see things slow down a bit from, you know, they're not at the levels during the summer, but you know, this fall the trend has been that people are booking in advance all throughout the fall, and this year is no exception, and then some. So I'm sure Joan and Beta will chime in on that later in terms of making sure your listing is ready. If it's not ready or active or pricing, you know, a big reason to do so is that the activity remains strong. The last chart here is on the booking numbers. So the bookings, looking at early bookings, advanced bookings that have been made as of November 11th for the next season are running 44% above. I think this is likely due to a lot of repeat bookings, but also, again, those that are forecasting into next season, into the spring and summer, that, you know, they're anticipating that they may still not be able to safely travel to places where they may normally have traveled to longer distance by plane and so forth. And so next summer, folks are planning in advance, and they're already booking their homes. Of course, you're going to have, you know, two sides to this. Some people are going to still look at the pandemic that's ongoing and be reserved. But then you have others that know what happened last summer, know that they were able to safely get away, and are going to say, I want to book my home in advance. I'm not going to get into the last minute kind of frenzy that we saw during June and July. And so folks are looking to secure their rentals in advance. Lastly, what we're looking at here in terms of what we're trying to, it's hard, yes, to predict, but we're sitting here with the notion that the pandemic is not going away. And as I said, you know, folks are going to be looking to book in advance. So we have to anticipate that the restrictions that we went through last summer are going to be here. They're going to be here to stay for at least for next summer. The one good thing is that as homeowners, we've been through all these very quick and you know, difficult changes that you all had to go through last summer. We've been through this before, so we know what to expect. And so, but the restrictions will be there. Vacationers too are aware of what those restrictions will be, so they're going to be better prepared as well. As I mentioned, and the numbers still show, the demand's going to be high. I bet it'll be spread out a little more evenly rather than this late surge in June and July. I doubt we will see a dip as we saw before. And then lastly, the off-season demand. I think many folks have said that they've extended their off-season this fall. They were able to extend not just into September and October, but into this month. And then other folks are likely experiencing some demand even for the holidays or into the early parts of next year. So those are some of the things to look out for. I do think we're, you know, in a good space from a demand perspective and for interest level. Hopefully some of you are already experiencing that, and certainly we are here to continue to follow whatever guidelines come out and trends, and we'll report back to you as we uncover them. So that's a quick run through to give a background on kind of the previous season and a look ahead. What we're going to do here is now open it up and gather feedback and insight from the group. And so I'm going to turn it over to Joan in a moment. Joan is going to kind of tee up some questions for the group. We are going to do this kind of as a roundtable. There are you know, more than we can simply hear from absolutely everybody on every single question. But what we are going to do is allow everybody to unmute themselves. You can unmute yourselves, chime in. I do ask that you do mute yourself after you've finished your talking points. And we'll try it that way. And I think we should be able to manage that way. We're not by just simply unmuting yourself and chiming into the discussion. If it becomes a little unwieldy, then we will ask for folks to go to the raise hand method, where you can raise your hand virtually in this method. But for right now, let's start out and just see if we can just have a conversation. So I'm going to end my share here and turn it over to Joan. Are you? Let me get the.
I'm here. You're.
I'm not staring. There we go.
Oh, there you are, everyone. The first question we would like to discuss is the fact that many of you had to change your protocols, the way you managed your vacation rental last summer, because of COVID. As Jim said, we anticipate that COVID will be with us to some degree next summer, and so many of the changes that you implemented will probably remain. We're interested in knowing which ones you will keep, and if you feel that any were overkill, that we know more now about the virus and how it spread, and that you will not keep. And in addition, which ones will you keep even after the pandemic's over? And did you feel that they were possibly an improvement over the way you managed your rental previously, and will continue to maintain them? And we're thinking in terms of your check-in and check-out policy as far as the times are concerned, linens, how did you handle that? Cleaning, that was a huge issue last summer, and many of you had to step up your demands on that. So who would like to chime in with your thoughts on this?
Do you want to restate the specific question you want?
Well, it's kind of multi-pronged, wasn't it?
Well,
let's just start with the changes that you will likely keep in place from the changes that you made last year.
Well, I for one will probably not. Generally, I have, big things of shampoo and a lot of amenities that I took away. And I will, closets full of toilet paper, closets full of paper towel, closets full of stuff. And I'm not going to do that again. People brought their own because I took it away this last year, and I told my renters, you need to bring your own stuff. And they totally we're going to do it anyway. So, and I will most likely not do that again. And the cleaning part of it, I'm on the fence about it, because the cleaning people use stuff that's pretty damn toxic, and it ruined a couple of things in my kitchen. And
Really?
like cabinetry and things, like took the finish off of it. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go all in with all this cleaning stuff anymore. My renters brought stuff and did stuff themselves. Now, maybe they did this, but anyway, it seemed like it was. And then my cleaning people spent so much time sanitizing everything, they dropped the ball on other stuff. And so I'm, it's the pros and cons with it. So I'll see, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's the first time I've heard that the agents are toxic like that and hurt furniture and stuff. That's creepy.
Well, you don't know what they're using, actually. I mean, they say they're using this stuff, but heavy bleach is not a good idea on cabinetry. So, and I don't know, I have a thing with my cleaning people anyway, but
yeah,
Don't
I think it's a good idea to know what your cleaning people are using.
Yeah, well,
And-
they say it's all that's all like up to code and everything with all of this, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You
A
know,
lot of those products that they were recommending were really hard for the cleaning people to find, I think, at the beginning of the summer, right? Like they were all
Oh,
kind of
true.
off the
Yeah.
shelves.
Yeah.
And then the more industrious ones kind of made do. And so there was a lot of, I think, bleach used,
Yeah.
which frankly, it's not good for the cleaning people either. So
No, I'm like allergic to that stuff.
yeah.
So I
So-
guess I'm in a bit of a different circumstance. We live in our house year round and we rent rooms and the entire second floor as people desire. And I run a bed and breakfast. So I established rules and cleaning that were appropriate for me and
Yeah.
for our situation. And I gave our cleaning people the right things to use and instructed them how to do it, and they did what needed to be done. I allowed time between visits. I canceled a lot of people because I was not going to contribute to community spread. And on the Vineyard, what I experienced was I was totally booked for last year, using mostly Airbnb as my platform, and a lot of people coming back, but through directly. But in any case, the all of June, which was booked solidly, was canceled because of all the weddings being canceled. So my way of establishing the cleaning procedures and the turnarounds and the way that I serve breakfast and what I insisted that guests do, including wearing masks in the house when interacting with other than themselves, if they were renting the whole space, you know, their whole group, but, you know, interacting with other people and me. I will continue because we're experiencing another surge, and I want people to know that I will be responsive to what's going on with COVID, and I don't want anybody to feel threatened or feel like they have the right to threaten other people by not obeying the COVID standards.
Hi, this is Jane. I too live on the Vineyard, and I live in my house, as does Joy, sorry. And but my entire second floor is an apartment with a kitchenette, living room, 2 bedrooms, and so forth, separate entrance. So last summer I was pretty much fully booked, but people canceled, or I finally canceled. Sorry about my dog. So I didn't rent at all. This summer, I am going to be taking renters. I do have cleaners that come to me every other week during the year. They're professional cleaners, and I have every confidence they will clean appropriately. I don't think any homeowner can sanitize as a hospital or a restaurant or you name it can do. And I think it would be silly to even try to do that. People are aware of COVID. People know what they should be doing. You assume that if they have the money to come here, they're going to be educated and responsible enough. And that's up to them. There's a 5-hour period between one tenant leaving and the next tenant coming in. It will be clean. No one will be in it in that interim time. And that's up to the renter to decide if they want to come in or not.
Yeah. Thanks, Jane. That you brought up an interesting point about the interval between your incoming guests or your outgoing guest and then your incoming guest. For others of you, how have you handled that? Did you extend the time to a later hour? And do you intend to keep it that way? It's difficult with the ferries, I know, because people have, arrive at perhaps earlier than the check-in time, sometimes much earlier, and they're leaving way after the checkout time. So you probably all have issues with that. But how do you handle it? And are you keeping your, the current way that you're doing it, that you've handled it?
I don't mean to interrupt, but there is no leeway between times, assuming you're booked. The guests must leave at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning, and the new guests can come in anytime after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And if
There is leeway though, right, Jane? I mean, they could, I think even this year I did move my checkout time from 10 to 9, and I delayed my check-in time from 3 to 4.
yes, if your cleaning people can do it. But
Mhm.
my cleaning people are fully booked in the summer,
Yeah.
and I'm lucky to have them.
They can come anytime within that time. I'm just saying, due to COVID,
Yeah.
many of us extended the turnover hours by making sure the outgoing left a little early and the incoming couldn't come in early. Now, what I find is that you can invite them if your house is ready and the cleaners have come and gone, you can then let them in, but manage their expectations before they get there. Even if their boat arrived at 11 in the morning, just understand you probably won't be able to get in until 4.
I think what I meant to say, my cleaners set their own time. I give them this
Yeah.
window. And
Right.
they're the ones who finish one house, go to another house, to another house, to another house. I can't tell them to come at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. because it doesn't work that way. How about anyone else?
Yeah, I'm the
Yeah.
same way. I had people wanting to come in, and I just said, I absolutely can't, because I'm giving you the other people the opportunity to leave and my cleaners to do a good job. And I can't have you in the house when the cleaners are here because they don't want anybody in the house. So I kind of like threw the cleaning people under the bus and put it all on them. And they were fine with it. You know, I mean, people at the last minute that changed or wanted to come had to, you know, get the ferry thing. And so the only ferry they could get like is 6 a.m. or something, but that's not my problem. My
Mhm.
problem is having an environment for you to come into that's yours, starting
Yeah.
from time.
Deb-
So
Deb,
Joan, let me chime in here for a second, just because I want to make sure that everybody does have an opportunity to speak.
Right.
Given that we can't physically, if we were in a room, we could tell who's raising their hand or anxious to talk. So let's do this. Certainly, if you have something, if you want to say something, I do ask that you do raise your hand. I mean, certainly we can get into a discussion and people can get into the discussion and chime in. But if you have something that you definitely want to we want to get to you, I can't see you. You can raise your hand virtually by clicking, if you're on your desktop computer, you can click on the participants list at the bottom to raise up all the participants. And then you'll see a raise hand option at the bottom of the participants list.
Oh.
And so, Deb, I know you were waiting to chime in. So I'll get you, and then we can go to Mike, who has his raised hand after that.
Oh yeah, I actually didn't realize how you could do that. Yeah, in terms of the check-in and check-out, that was a big thing for us because we found people were very pushy about early check-ins. Even every single thing we sent them said from the very beginning when they checked in, you know, make your ferry reservation, but please note, you cannot get in before 4. Here's why. Every time along the way, and they would still come in 9 a.m. Hey, we're here. Can we get in? And so it was always, we have our messaging that we just copy and paste to everybody, you know, but it was hard to manage. And when the cleaners were done for the day, just say, because we have 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. When they were done, just say if they were done at 1, we knew that the people were going to be arriving early because we ask everybody when they're arriving. We tell them, like, look, you can come in early, but just understand that, you know, we had left the 6 hours, and if you want to take that on, but, you know, we generally didn't. We generally said, you can't come in before 4. We're really sorry. We threw COVID under the bus.
yeah.
And we even had to tell people, some people would actually come onto the property while the cleaners were there, bullied our cleaners. God.
That's a real problem. I had a
that was a
real
problem.
problem with that. you know, cleaners don't like it, but you can, what is that? You only have one opportunity to make a first impression. And when you've got vacuum cleaners everywhere and people going in and out, but you don't have much control of it.
It was bad. That was a particularly bad one, but that wasn't, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a particularly difficult situation on the islands because of the ferries and their arrival and departures. When people are coming to the Cape and they're coming by car, you know, go to the beach, go, you know, they're
Sort of the same here too, though. I find most of them, when I tell them, they say, that's no problem, Elizabeth, we're going to just go to lunch or something. They have some little fun thing they're going to do.
Yeah.
Agree, Deb?
Yeah. We have a lot of questions. I wonder if we should just move
Joan,
on.
you do
Tim,
have-
were you going to say
Joan, you
something?
do have a couple people with their hands raised if you want to grab them first
Sure.
and then go on to the
Okay.
next question. So Mike, you were up first.
Thanks, Jim. We have the same check-in, check-out procedure that Jane mentioned, out by 10 a.m. in no earlier than 3 p.m. We've had, like everybody else, we've had some issues with people coming in deciding they're going to come early, even though we tell them repeatedly, please respect these times. Now, as far as coming into the island and checking in at 3 p.m., what we instruct our cleaners to do is to text or email us when they are finished with the cleaning process. If they are able to start at 10 and they're done at 12 or 12:30, they send us an email saying we're done. And then we can email the incoming tenant to say they're done. If you'd like to go early, you may do so now. But we also instruct them, if they don't hear from us, the 3 o'clock check-in time is rigidly enforced.
Yeah.
And likewise, the 10 a.m. checkout time is uniformly enforced. And frankly, we write in penalties for people who don't pay attention, and then withhold money from the security deposit if they have violated the rules. So that's how we handle it. As far as the products from the cleaners use, if you agree with the cleaners to use product A and they use product B, I think that's a firing offense. That's simply not acceptable, especially when they're using bleach in your home. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, enough of that rant. Let me just bring up one other thing for the group to discuss, and that is how we're going to handle cancellations this year. I don't know if we're typical, Joan, of everybody else. We had many, I'm looking at my records right now. We had many cancellations in the spring from people who reserved very early, and they mostly all canceled. Yeah. And we thought about throwing in the towel and say, we're just not going to rent this year. It's so crazy. We decided to stick with it. We're glad we did. We actually had probably the best year we've ever had, because once we got to June and early July, we were totally swamped. We totally sold out. And in fact, we took several weeks off the rental calendar just so that we could have some time on the island. What we did was have a very liberal policy to say, look, we'll let you cancel for any reason you like up to 2 weeks before you come in. And we will refund 100% of your money, except for ferry tickets. I don't know if we're going to do that again this year. And furthermore, I kind of wonder what we would do with someone who paid everything in and then 10 days before they came said, uh-oh, my 2 members of my family just tested positive. Can we cancel? Do I want them to cancel? I think I do. I don't want people who have tested positive in my house. No. Do I refund all their money, even if they cancel on 10 days notice or 7 days notice? It's really impossible to rent on such short notice. Then, and I guess the question I have is to throw it out to the group to say, how did you handle it last year, and how would you plan to handle it this year? Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody want to?
Yeah, we got some hands raised. We got some hands raised here. So Cynthia, your hand is raised here first. I will grab you.
Hi, everybody, and thanks,
Hi,
guys,
Cynthia.
for doing what you do. I'm just chiming in what everybody else was saying about the checking in and checking out. I had 3 renters that sent their deposits in December of last year. So come January, when we got the notice from the Steamship Authority, I sent them an email, don't forget to make your reservations. So out of the 3, one person didn't do it. She waited and she called me up and says, "Oh, can I come in early? Because I'm having a ferry coming at 6:30. And I said, "No, I'm sorry, can't do it. You cannot do it. That's why I told you make your reservations early." So she wasn't too happy about it, but like, hey, I mean, that's all them. That's all them. And then again, with the cleaning people, she was the only one that was a pain in the neck. Everyone else was good. My cleaning service is excellent. And they do text me and let me know that they're finished, which was great. So, because I had a few people, like my family came up and she texted me and said, "Oh, I'm done," so the people could come in. So I'm pretty happy how things went last year with me, other than one. You're always going to have one person that's an issue. So I was happy with mine.
What about your cancellation policy?
Fortunately, I didn't have any cancellations at all. I had 3 renters that came in. They rented in December. They all came. And then the site was pretty good during the summer. Then the rest of the people that got, they made their reservations like in May and June. I guess they were like waiting. They were all in the Boston area, Boston, Dartmouth and stuff. So they paid like all up front. So I had no issues at all. So we'll see what happens this year, but I didn't have any problems at all. So I'm like, good, and knock on wood.
Yeah, this is
All right, a lot of hands raised here. Go ahead, Sue.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to talk about my experience with cancellation in 2020. We allowed anyone to cancel at any time if they couldn't come for any COVID-related reason. And we had cancellations up into July. But what happened as soon as we opened up reservations that came up because of the cancellations, they were booked. But this was a very unusual year. Because of COVID and all the cancellations, the ferries had spots and you could get a ferry reservation. And I don't know, that did not happen in 2019. And I don't think that would be the case if it wasn't for COVID, where the ferry, things would be so fluid with the ferry reservations that it was possible to get them in June or even July for the summer. So, but we did allow cancellations related to COVID at any time. And we did have cancellations, but all the openings were refilled by other people. And as the other person said, they were mostly pretty local from the Boston, New England area, Massachusetts, Vermont, Rhode Island. And of course, there was that window in the summer where the COVID rates were much lower and things seemed much safer.
Great. Thanks. Let's keep it moving. I'm going to go get some new folks in. Tracy, if I'm going to ask to unmute you, if you could, you'll have to unclick to unmute yourself, Tracy. There you go.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have a house in Chilmark and I live in California. And that makes, and I'm sorry that my dog has suddenly decided it's time that she wants to have part of the conversation. Martha, you need to stop. Stop it. So when all the COVID stuff started, I pretty quickly decided that I was going to cancel everything. And part of it was the distance. It's hard as it is to manage a long distance rental during the summer. Too many variables. I had no way of knowing. Things were really bad in Massachusetts compared to how it was in California at that point in time. So what I ended up doing, I canceled, and I was prepared to just basically eat the loss. And then I learned that there was a growing demand for long-term rentals. So the short version of this story is I offered up one long-term rental for 6 weeks. And the short version is, it was getting close to the point where I was ready to go for 32 days, which is what the state considers to be a long-term versus a short-term rental. And I got my 6 weeks, and these people had already left Houston and had gotten as far as North Carolina. And I had actually talked to them before they left home, but then I heard from them again, and that worked out really well. And then at the last minute, pretty much, I got another one for people who have been going to the fishing derby for, I think they said 30 years. And I think pretty last minute found themselves, the people whose house they'd been renting for many years. I don't know what they decided to do, sell the house, move, I don't know. They needed a place to stay. And so they came for a month, or actually 5 weeks. And they're coming back. And I'm hoping that the 6 weekers will also be back. But it turns out that I've certainly heard from them. He, not long after he got home, he apparently fell and has had a concussion. So he doesn't want to make commitments yet. So my immediate struggle, and by the way, that all worked out really well. It seemed like, it was a little bit high risk, but I had to be willing to, be okay with whatever the outcome was. And and I'm thinking I want to do that again, but I have to decide pretty quickly, because if I start doing 1 or 2 week rentals, that kind of screws up, can you get the long-term rentals?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure that out, but I was very happy with that arrangement. I was concerned about what kind of risk I would put my house cleaners at if I had a lot of weekly rentals, even with or without longer intervals for the turnover. And I just decided that I couldn't cope with it at a distance.
Yeah.
I'm on some Zoom call thing.
But I'm curious
let me grab.
whether people feel about whether or not anybody else did longer term rentals, or what you think about that.
I do believe, Tracy, that's on Joan's list of questions. I do want to grab a couple more people. We'll get back. I'm glad you had success, from California on long-term rentals. I definitely know that's on Joan's list here. Lori, let me grab you, and then we'll move on to a new question and grab some others.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Last year, like everybody else, it was all new and scary. And when people didn't want to come, we let them go, and we got the house. We got some bookings. We didn't refill it. But this year, I think we're going to hold to the terms of our lease, which is, based on the fact that people know what they're in for now. They know what the challenges are. They know, whether they're going to be comfortable traveling or not. And I think, the tricky area for me is, if somebody books and then they cancel, and then you threaten to hold their money, and then they go, well, okay, we'll come. I feel like you don't really want people in your house who don't want to be in your house, right? Mm-hmm. So I think what we'll probably do is, if they've paid whatever portion of the money, we'll give them, this won't be in the lease, but I think as things unfold, we'll maybe give them a percentage of that back, with the knowledge that they're not taking that house anymore. And but they'll have paid some penalty for booking early, knowing what they were getting into, and then backing out. And then if we can book it that week, we'll give them that money back. But I think, I haven't looked into any kind of travel insurance, and I know that it's, for litigious reasons, we don't want to recommend any, but I feel like I just think they need to be held to their contracts this year. And when people are calling for booking, particularly if they're not within driving distance, we've been kind of encouraging people to just hold off. If their first question is, how can we get out of this? I'm like, why don't you wait? It's really the answer. So
I have an answer regarding travel insurance. It does not, there's a lot of noise in the background. It does not cover COVID, and travel insurance in general is very difficult for medical reasons. Is very difficult. However, if you've had a surgery and your doctor excuses it, that's fine. But COVID is not included in travel insurance.
It depends on the insurance. There's something called CFAR, cancel for any reason, which certainly would include COVID. But you pay, it's extremely expensive, and the payout is only like 50 or 60% or something.
Have you looked into it regarding COVID explicitly?
Yeah.
With that word in the insurance policy?
Well, cancel for any reason doesn't need to, you don't need to specify.
I think, excuse me, I think you'll see in the fine print, it will exclude it. And that's something that before anyone even suggests travel insurance, either we individually, or better yet, We Need a Vacation, check that out. Last year, I had so many cancellations. I booked very early that I finally just gave all the money back and didn't rent at all. This year, what Lori said, I think is true. I am going to rent. I am going to stick by the cancellation policy because everyone today knows what COVID is. There's no excuse, in my opinion. But in terms of travel insurance, be very careful and make sure, and maybe that's something you could get back to us on, is this other insurance you mentioned truly cover COVID? And do you
No,
have
it doesn't. Jane, I've done the research on this last year because we had booked a European cruise we had to cancel, and we did take out the travel insurance. Even the cancel for any reason policies have buried in their fine print the word pandemic under exclusions. They are totally worthless.
Yes, you're absolutely right. But if Elizabeth wants to double check it, that's fine.
Well, somebody from our office, our Tori has, so I don't know personally, but I know that some very recent research was done about insurance companies. So she probably knows, I don't know.
Maybe you could send that to us.
Yeah, definitely.
And to see if there is pandemic in the wording, because I think Mike is right.
Yeah, we are in the process of looking into it. It's complicated, it's varied from company to company, and you do have to really pay attention to the fine print. But
it's of value to both our vacationers and our homeowners, because all of us, wouldn't it be great if all of our guests took out insurance and then we wouldn't have to worry about giving money back, or where we'd be covered either way. So it's definitely a benefit to us. What, Mike? No, what?
Doesn't work. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Everyone takes out insurance, but they don't really have insurance.
Right.
The question is, from a marketing standpoint, I want people who come to me to be comfortable doing business with me.
Good for
I
you.
want to bend over backwards to make sure that they are comfortable in booking a stay at my house, that if something really goes wrong, like the whole family gets sick, they're not going to be out thousands of dollars. It's simple as that. So we try to be liberal in giving money back. We had to do it a lot during the spring, but once people started booking in May and June, in June in particular, and they did, we never had a question about it, and nobody canceled.
We saw that throughout the Cape and Islands, Mike, and I'm so glad to hear you say that most of our homeowners, you guys would agree, right? Most of our homeowners did just what you did. They took the high road. They understood that people either may be sick or couldn't get here or had lost their jobs. And most of our homeowners, we are so proud of you all, tended to really do the right thing, even though it hit you in the wallet. And all of us were sweating bullets there in April and May. But for most of us, it's so great. Like, what goes around comes around. Is that right? And, most of us ended up having a better summer than we would have. So it was a good lesson for all.
Joan, do you want to move on to another question?
Sure. We could stick forever on this one, but we do have more to cover. We're wondering about repeat guests. We all know that they're so valuable to our renting. They know your home, they love it, they take care of it, you like them, and so it's really important to, with time, be able to have tenants who come back year after year, if they can. How do you go about reaching out to them to ask them if they're going to come back the following year? And what do you do in order to have them be interested in the first place? Are there any things that you do that intrigues them and interests them in coming back to your home again?
Do you have your hand raised here?
Yeah, so this summer also was very unprecedented in that I had inquiries during the summer, for the summer of 2021. So in advance. And several weeks got booked that way, to the point, and then 3 different people, the very week they were there in the summer, said, we want to book the same week next summer. And it got to the point where I was almost totally booked. Well, I was totally booked by the middle of September for 2021. And I had people who had canceled for 2020, who then contacted me in October and wanted to book for 2021. And I had to say, I'm really sorry, but we are totally booked, which was very unprecedented. And they were upset, but at this point they actually booked for 2022. So I kind of got in the practice of, by the middle of September, or maybe even early September, I think right around Labor Day, I contacted everybody who had been there in 2020 and said, please let me know if you want to come back, because we're getting many inquiries already for 2021. And, if you want to, there's still openings, but I don't know how long there will be. And as I said, by the end of September, I was totally booked for 2021. And as far as the issue of people sticking to their lease agreement and not giving refunds for cancellations related to COVID, I mean, it's a little disingenuous, I think, to say people know what they're getting into, because nobody knows now what the situation will be next summer. But if they want to have a chance of coming, they have to book. They can't wait, or they won't be able to get the house. So, it's still a pretty uncertain situation. And the people that had inquired for 2021 and I couldn't offer them anything, and I've been in contact with them, and they have booked a week in 2022. And they actually said, we don't think it's even going to be safe in 2021. So we're not, we're okay with this.
Yeah.
Great, thanks, Sue. Let's move. Lauren, you want to chime in?
Sorry, I just wanted to share that Tori from our company had chimed in on the chat. She did say that she has done a tremendous amount of most reputable travel insurance companies, and she's saying that they do in fact cover a confirmed case of COVID. What they don't cover in travel insurance is they don't cover a total pandemic. But in terms of COVID, or if you have a case of COVID and can prove that, she's saying that that is covered. And I don't want to get into a big discussion on it right now because we have so much more to go into, but I did want to update you on her research.
All right, thanks, Lauren. We'll also add that to our blog, and that will get distributed. And Jan, you want to chime in here?
Yeah, I'm with Lauren on that. I actually wrote that into my lease going forward, that the only way to cancel would be with a confirmed doctor's or some certificate of testing if someone in their group had COVID. And no one has said a word about it. As for last year, we were in a kind of a weird thing because we came up here from Florida to the house in May and quickly decided we wanted to stay here. And so I deferred with which most of my people, except maybe 2, everybody to next year, because I get paid up front 6 months in advance from people's rentals because I've been screwed. So it's like you have to pay 6 months in advance, and that gives me time to re-rent the house. But that was in normal situations. So anyway, everybody was fine with deferring till next year. So I never really lost any money. And then we left the end of July, and I had 4 weeks open, man, and they booked quick. And so what happened was we had all of August and the end of July, and the first week in September rented. So that was okay. And then next year and then 2 of those people, before they even left the house, took rented for next summer. So I've got all next summer totally rented. Now I'll probably take a hit on it, but my time here in my house through this period was so much more worth what I might take a hit on, because it's been just wonderful for my husband and my family to be here. So, you know, it's just, and some of them that I deferred for next year were regular people, and they were happy to do it. So because they were coming anyway. So they just didn't come this year. They were coming next summer. So all of next summer, and I'm already getting inquiries for 2022. So, because I only rent my house 8 to 9 weeks a year, because I don't like the wear and tear on it. So it's, you know, it's kind of limited.
Mhm.
So I think that hopefully many folks have already reached out. Clearly, there's a high demand. People may get high demand one full year in advance, or just vacationers realized how high a demand it was this past summer that they know they need to book early. And so, you know, if you as a homeowner have not reached out to your past guests or have a strategy for that, you know, you should define how you're going to reach out to your guests. Back on Joan's question, just kind of that was her question to folks. Like, when are you reaching out and what are you doing to try to entice folks to return and solidify a booking in advance like this?
And I just add, it begs the question about pricing too. I hear what Sue said, like she's fully booked, some from repeats or however you guys are getting fully booked for next year. Are you raising your rates? How many of you, maybe show hands, how many of you are raising your rates next year?
Me?
Hard to get a read on that.
Well, there's the reactions. I don't know if people wanted to do that. But.
Right. Oh, let me, a few more hands. Yeah, there you go.
I'd like clarification on the COVID again. According to Lauren, and this would be true of surgery or anything else with the doctor's letter, if you have a confirmed case and it would be verified by your doctor, hospital, whatever, you can cancel. But what does that do to us, the homeowner? And the money that was deposited? I don't want to return that money. I mean, I returned everything last year. I won't do it again. But I don't want to return money based on that. And health insurance does not cover this. It doesn't cover the fear of COVID. It only covers it if you actually contract COVID. So what do we do with the money that we've received from this family, say, where suddenly at the last minute they get COVID?
I would say it's a personal decision. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in, but I think each of us has to make that decision. And I'm hearing from you guys, and I agree that next summer it may be similar in terms of having the remnants of a pandemic, but we're going into it with our eyes open.
Yes.
This year was very different. So, you know, I think each of us have decisions to make, and depending on how, you know, strict you want to be or not.
Can you issue a statement that we all could use regarding health insurance, travel insurance, excuse me, as well as how it pertains to COVID? And we can add that into our leases.
Yep, as we said, we've already done a ton of research, and we will be writing it up and making it known to all of you for sure.
As possible.
Sure.
Hey,
Yep.
Let's grab a few.
Wouldn't that be up
few
to
more.
the renter to get it themselves?
Yeah, but
though?
it's up to us homeowners to suggest it and
Oh,
be able to to promote it.
Be informed.
Let's
Mhm.
grab a few more hands here. Joy, unmute you. You want to chime in on this question? You'll have to unmute yourself.
While she's looking, I want to clarify that Joy hasn't joined our company yet. So when she was saying she got all her bookings from Airbnb, I wanted to clarify, right, Joy?
We didn't
No,
stand
I
a chance.
haven't, because you haven't figured out a way to be able to have me on your website as a bed and breakfast in the way that would be best for me. So when we can
You have
talk
a very
about that,
unique situation. Yeah.
I am. And so that's why I was saying from the beginning that I have a different take on things. And I also have a very different take on the fact that I am a member of this community. I live here year round. We are experiencing a surge now of community spread. And the last thing I am going to do is to modify anything that I do about COVID in the midst of this. And I really am very disturbed that people find that it's okay not to refund money for people who have been affected, who could be affected, and that they think people can anticipate that. For me, safety is way more important than money. And it's not that I am not in this to make money, but we can't survive if we penalize people for something that happens to them that they have no control over. And I will not welcome anybody in my house who doesn't sign something that says that they agree with all the precautions that we need to take at the time that they come. I supply masks, I supply gloves, I supply disinfectant, and people have been very happy to be able to come here and feel safe and to follow all the regulations. And I think that anybody who doesn't take that into account is not being a good citizen. That's my take.
It is it's a great point. This is Joy, just in terms of all homeowners were just put through so much this summer to get prepared for their rentals and make sure your topmost priority was safety of your guests, safety of your service providers, and safety of the community. And that's what we pushed wholeheartedly, that anybody coming had to vacation responsibly. And we wanted to, first and foremost, educate people on how to do that. Homeowners, you yourself did that. Educate your guests coming in to ensure their safety. It's in your both best interest. A lot of you went above and beyond, provided sanitizer, Joy, you said you provide masks. You went above and beyond what you had to do. And I hope, and I do believe you are going to get that back. You'll get that back. Many of you are getting repeat guests. And I think this year you'll see repeat guests will probably go up because people know if they had a good summer last summer during the pandemic, they trust you. They trust you as homeowners that you've done the right thing and will continue to do the right thing for next summer. So that's why opportunity strikes now. If you haven't reached out to your guests, continue that building on that relationship, and you may be able to get them to commit to their bookings in advance. In terms of the policy at the end, in terms of refunds and cancellation policies, again, as Beta mentioned, it is a personal preference on what works best for you. There are multiple ways to handle that. Thanks, Joy.
And Joy, again, Joy's situation is unique because these people are coming in her home. You know, these are rooms in her home that she's renting. So the whole safety thing, it's a little different for me. My cleaning people come, I leave the house, I let it air for a little bit. You know what I mean? It's a different situation.
But they come into my house too.
Right. No, yours is similar to Joy's thing.
The whole second floor. It is separate entrance. And technically, I don't need to see them at all.
That's what I'm saying. You guys have a unique situation that way.
But I think that people are adults and people do know everyone in now, you know, I don't know what age knows what COVID is now. They didn't last summer. And if they're traveling and making that choice, that's their decision. But as I said, I returned every penny last year fully, but I don't want to be in that position again, because we now know what it is and what it means and so forth. So,
and you know what it is right now, that Cronin's had to be closed because of community spread. And I think that you have to take that into account, that if people are asking to come to Martha's Vineyard now, that we have to take a stand that doesn't allow this to continue here. Everybody else who doesn't live here maybe doesn't feel as committed to the community, but I do.
Well, I'm committed to my community too, and I've lived here for 40 years in Edgartown. However, that would mean then that none of us should be renting on Martha's Vineyard this year, not one person. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that you have to ask people to follow the COVID regulations, that people will do that, and that I follow particularly stringent cleaning things and space between people. That's my decision. But that when people come, that they need to know that the commitment isn't just to get money, but it's committed to have people have a good, safe time.
I think that goes without saying. I think we probably are all responsible homeowners, and that we all will follow the suggestions that our health officials make. I don't think any one of us, I can't speak for everyone, but I'd be surprised if some of us just totally disregard that. And I know I don't, and I am more positive than what you appear to be, but I believe in people being responsible.
Mhm. I think we're all in agreement here. Jim, do you see any more hands, or shall we move on?
Well, one more hand, Tracy.
Okay.
Well, I just want to maybe reiterate or support what some other folks are saying. COVID is very fluid, and I think I mean, everything I've heard is it's going to stay fluid for a long time. We're a long ways, I think, from people being able to easily get vaccinations. We're not even clear if they work. And so I'm certainly feeling more comfortable because I've had last year's experience or this year's experience, sort of figured out how to make my way through it. But I think all of us would be naive, I guess is the word I'll choose, if we think that by next summer, we're going to end up with, knowing exactly how it's going to be, or it's going to be like this past year. And so we have to be prepared to be responsive and kind of take it as it comes.
Mm-hmm.
And, my personal position is that I'm prepared to refund money because, or to at least put something in my lease that reminds people that this is fluid and that, they need to be prepared to roll with it when the time comes. It's all going to be based on what's going on next June, next July, next August, or whatever time it is any of us choose to rent our houses.
It also depends on what time you can set the deposits according, you can have, if they cancel by a certain date that's early enough that we all can recoup the booking. It's a big difference than if they cancel the week before, especially if here on the Vineyard with the transportation issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I just say one more quick thing?
Yeah.
One quick thing. Just what we learned between this summer and the next summer is this summer nobody knew anything, right? So people were canceling just because they were scared to travel, not because they had the virus.
Mhm.
So we were dealing with a lot of cancellations of people that just didn't want to come because they were scared. That's fine. That happened. And we ended up being able to re-rent a lot of it. Next summer, though, now that we all do know a little more and travelers know a little more, we can't afford to just give everybody money back if they don't feel like taking the chance or if they feel vulnerable. Like they will. We do have that thing that Elizabeth just said about a cancellation by enough time. But we do have a clause that says, if you're positive or if ferries are canceled, if there's a couple of days, we will absolutely refund your money, but we won't be doing the, we're a little scared anymore. So.
Well, it does become a judgment call because what if somebody loses their job or, there's a whole gray area and, it is a customer service business that we're in.
Yeah.
So.
But we're always open to that because we do have personal relationships. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Joan, do you want to take one final question?
Yeah, I'm just looking over. I have a number of questions, just trying to find one final one. And I think it would be, what can we do at We Need a Vacation to help you with your marketing or managing your rental home? Don't all raise your hands at once.
I think sort of what we discussed already, that if you can provide us with language concerning COVID, concerning insurance, concerning giving back money and at what time, even though that part will be up to each owner, I think that would be the most help. Is health insurance and COVID.
Yeah. Well, we certainly try to provide that kind of information. As we've said before, one size doesn't fit all. So it's difficult to We can provide you with sample language and perhaps several different scenarios, but there's just no one right answer, but we will do what we can to help along those lines. Anyone else?
Cynthia, did you have something to add?
Yeah, well, I've been very pleased with the service that I'm getting with you guys. I got to make sure I renew my subscription next week. And the information regarding contracts, which is great because I don't believe I have anything in my contract about the COVID or illness. So I really definitely need to put something in there. But one quick question I had from the last question. I've been renting for like 3 years now. This year was my best year. Should I call or email or text the past renters to see if they're going to come back? That's question number one, based on whatever the experienced folks out there. And number two, I did increase my rental fees this year. So I decreased it. And I'm going to increase it. So I just wanted to get a little feedback on that.
Mm-hmm.
Joan, do you want to?
Well, as far as contacting your past renters, Cynthia, most homeowners email their past renters and just notify them that, you know, you're getting some bookings and you're just wondering if they're interested in next summer. And you might know that we have a system in your homeowner center whereby you can send an email to your past renters, and that will contain the picture, the first picture of your home. It'll have your summer calendar, the calendar months with the prices, and so it makes it very easy for them to take a look, see what's still remains on your open, and it's a system that works quite seamlessly.
Oh, I have to look at that. That sounds
And I would
great.
just add, don't wait. I mean, it's almost getting late. We really advocate that you reach out to those past guests as early as September.
Okay.
So I wouldn't wait too long, because you're going to start getting inquiries, and then what are you going to do? You give those repeats 24 hours or something, you know?
Tim, are there others?
Yeah, my other question was
There-
about increasing the rent, because I did decrease my rate for 2020, so I'm going to put it back to where it should be.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be sending out something on Sunday that you all get about pricing. It's a pretty in-depth blog post, basically, about pricing. And the quick answer is that I think most of us will be raising our rates based on how most of us had such a great year this year. And as Jim talked about, how the initial bookings and inquiries and everything are so strong already this fall. So yeah, I think especially if you lowered your prices, I would absolutely raise them. But this ties into the repeat guests, right? You might want to say, you know, just so you know, I am raising my rates for next year, but I'll either honor last year's rates for you this year, or maybe somewhere in between. That's what I would probably do. Raise it a little bit on them, but not to what all the new people are getting.
Joan, where is the email that you just mentioned a minute ago about the picture?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Am I talking? No.
Yes. Jane, if you go to your email inquiries,
Okay.
your email inquiry history.
From the homeowner center.
Okay.
Yeah, you will see that I can send you directions about how to do
That
it.
would probably be easier. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
So I'm interested in what are some of the considerations for raising this coming season's rates? We in particular have a house large house that was not air conditioned. We rented it for the entire summer at full price. and we probably have some people returning. But that said, we're also investing a lot of money in putting in air conditioning. And how much of a premium would be reasonable to charge over what we were charging before, just taking the addition of air conditioning as a consideration?
How did you do last summer?
We were booked the entire summer at full price.
Air conditioning is one of the most popular amenities, as you can imagine, and so you're certainly justified in increasing your rate. It's really an individual thing, though. I'm happy to look at your listing, Don, and your pricing and get in touch with you.
Okay.
And just for others, remember that we do have a pricing consultation service that you can avail yourself of, that I personally do. And I find comparables and send you a full report, but I'm just happy to take a look at your particular listing, Don. And get
That'll
in
be
touch.
great. Thanks.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Hi, so I've been with your service for about 3 years now, and I put it in the chat group here. I would say the majority of my guests have not even heard of you guys. Most of my guests are coming through VR, well, it was HomeAway before. We stopped using the other service. But I'm wondering, are you guys marketing through Google search, or I literally have to push people to tell them to come to you guys? Because one of the pushbacks we've got from folks coming from other services is the fees that they pay. So they would like to bypass the fees. So I try to push them towards you guys, and they're like, oh, we've never heard of We Need a Vacation. So I'm wondering, you asked the question about what other marketing things can you do. I'm wondering, how do you guys get upfront to folks who are searching? When they do a search in Google and it says, looking to come to Martha's Vineyard, or however they do their search, I'm wondering how people find you, because I could count on my hands how many folks have come through you guys, and I like you guys, so I would like to keep pushing, you know.
So I'll answer that, but first, all I see are your initials. What's your name?
My name is Walston. First name is Walt. My name is so long. It's Walston, and the last name is Bob Semple, and we're in Vineyard Haven.
Okay, very good. Well, it's good. Certainly we get that question all the time, and it's a lengthy answer that I could try to summarize shortly, and happy to discuss any particular details offline with you if you want to go further in depth. But certainly our number one priority since day one of the business 20 some years ago is always being at the top of the rankings for SEO. We need to be strongly positioned SEO wise so that people do find us in the search results. Rankings do go up and down. Google is constantly changing their results. So you have ad space up front, then they're changing the way they do searches. But typically we've been in the, for a lot of the search terms, been in the top 3 for the terms that we want to be in. And again, that there's some fluctuation there. We do pay for ad space as well from time to time. But again, we measure what the value of that, it's very expensive for not always the best return. So we don't put everything into Google, other than ensuring that our positioning there it remains strong. We do have other campaigns, digital marketing campaigns. We're strong on our content. We can target folks. We do have a lot of data and insights that we can help target. We've said this year over year that we know who's coming to the vineyard, so we can target them with vineyard related content, vineyard related listings and so forth. So I'll add one more, is that we added this year it was this past December of 2019, we added a site called Home to Go for additional exposure that many of you are now familiar with, that added maybe 10% increase in our inquiries or vacationers this year. And Home to Go site is a aggregator site. It aggregates listings from Airbnb, VRBO, We Need a Vacation now, and it allows a vacationer, if they choose to go this route, to search across all these platforms at the same time and find their listings. And what we push is, as you mentioned, is the fees. We're trying to push the fact that people can save money by booking direct. If you book direct through you, the homeowner, through our platform, you get not only just a more personalized service, but you do get to skip those vacationer fees. And so those are some of the measures that we're doing. There's an extensive efforts ongoing that we're always trying to get our brand out there, whether, you know, in additional efforts on the radio we've done last year. You just try to get, we were in the press quite a bit this past year, more than ever before. So those are some of the efforts we're doing. I, you know, obviously don't like to hear that somebody hasn't heard about us, but that's our job to try to get our name out there.
Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
One last question, and this is so far left field, but I feel I should ask it. I put it in the chat group and I didn't get a response. I'm assuming that no one has heard of this. So I'm based in New York, in Brooklyn. We have a place there. This summer, we ended up moving everyone to 2021, and we decided to stay up there. Once our kids were out of school, we stayed there from March until we came back in September. And we got a ton of inquiries for this summer, but we decided to not take a chance, primarily because we kept hearing of these ridiculous stories. One I verified, and one I saw in the Real Deal paper, but I wanted to know about Massachusetts laws. So we've had stories we've heard folks in the Hamptons who've rented for the summer up there and decided not to leave once their time period came up, primarily because they knew the laws in New York City that no one could be kicked out of a rental space. And I was wondering if Massachusetts, if you guys are aware of what laws Massachusetts has, if someone were to come and rent your space, contract COVID, decide not to leave, or decided that they're not leaving. I thought I did all my, due diligence when we decided to go this route, but I think I didn't dive deeply into that. And what I've heard about the stories that happened in the Hamptons and Long Island really kind of put a damper on how I was going to approach going forward with rentals. Did I think that makes sense? I don't know.
Yeah, it did. And it's a very complicated situation. I did hear of one situation this past year where in March, one of our homeowners rented her home to someone just a man who wanted to rent it for March and April, the end of, at the given off-season rate. At the end of his lease, he decided he would stay on and not even pay the new rate for the that would be increased because it was coming up on summer. Mm-hmm. And because the owner took money from him, he became what you would call a tenant at will. And it was very difficult to get him out. I've heard that the eviction laws in Massachusetts are quite in favor of the tenant. So it's a very difficult thing to deal with if it happens. I think it happens very rarely in Massachusetts. I haven't heard of many cases, but you really have to take a look at your lease. And some people are indicating in a lease that it's, let's say, 32-day leisure vacation lease. So it's wording as such to make it appear this is a short-term lease, not a going to end up being a tenant who just stays on and on. But it's something that you might want to check with an attorney as well.
Okay, thank you.
I have more information that I could send you though.
Thank you.
Jim,
it's getting on 12:24.
Yeah, I think we should wrap up just for sake of time here. And certainly if people found this useful and helpful, we do plan to continue these Zoom meetings. Those that have attended before know that we do plan to have these meetings probably on some sort of schedule, maybe a monthly schedule throughout the season. So there'll be more opportunity to connect with everybody. Joan, anything you want to add before we adjourn?
No, and if you did not have a chance to participate and wanted to say something today, just please get in touch with us, email us, call us. We're always happy to talk to you.
The only thing I would add, Jim, is I wanted to point everybody's attention when they're logged into their account up in the top where it says homeowner center in the drop-down menu, there's an option for our home services directory. So I just feel like so many of our homeowners don't realize that it's there. And Lauren, I don't know if you want to post that link in the chat, but it's just a great resource if you guys are looking for a new cleaner, for example, or caretaker, or just anything. You know, the island's a small place. Maybe you know people that you can get recommendations from, but also if you can suggest anybody or write reviews, anything like that. I just, again, feel like so many of our homeowners aren't even aware of that nice resource that we offer. And I also wanted to bring your attention to our to the Facebook. Jim, you want to talk about the Facebook community? Just to
Sure. I mean, I think in the interim, you know, while we're not here meeting in person, if you have a
Yeah.
question that comes up, as Beta said, feel free to reach out to us. We certainly we're here to help. But if you're looking for feedback, say from the community, from other homeowners, we did start a page that was meant for homeowners. It's called on Facebook, Vacation Rental Owners Community for Cape Cod and the Islands. And that has become pretty popular this past year. There's over 700 folks that are now in that. It's all Cape and Island homeowners only, vacation rental homeowners. And so they're posting questions similar to the questions that we posed today, but also related to something as looking for service providers, whether it's related to their rental, cleaning, linens, and so forth, or maybe it's just a service provider for their home. You're looking for an electrician, a handyman, or something. So it's a great resource. We'll send the link out in the follow-up email that you'll get in the next day or two.
Is it a page or a group?
It's a group.
Oh, okay.
It's a group.
Great.
So it's called Vacation Rental Owners Community, Cape Cod and Islands. It is a mouthful. So search for it, or if not, or look for a link in the email that we'll send out with this post wrap up. So, Joan, anything else? Beta?
Nope. Thank you all for joining and sticking around so long.
Thank you. This was fabulous as far as I'm concerned. I love it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, we couldn't go.
Thanks for joining, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Well done. Good information.
Well done, cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Care.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
And to-
Bye.
And because my situation is unique, I think I need to talk offline with you guys, okay?
Yeah.
Definitely
Thank you,
enjoy.
Joy.